Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Pretty Pink Posh is having a fun video hop to celebrate their November 2025 release. They're giving away a $20 gift certificate on each stop, so be sure to leave a comment on my video and the rest of the videos in the hop to qualify to win. The next video on the hop is from Leah Lawson, and I do have a link for her video along with the hop information listed in the description box below. So here's a quick look at the main products I'll be using. I have the new Igloo shaker die set, the penguin holder die set. I'll be using the new Snowy Hills border. And then I also have a few older sets. I'm using just 1 or 2 dies from those sets. On the Christmas holder editions, I'm using the smaller snowflake. On the Valentine holder edition set, I'm using the basket and also one of the bows. From the cat holder die set, I'm using the fish. And for a sentiment, I'm using the new Let It Snow stamp set and coordinating dies. For the background of my card, I am using some pattern paper. This is from one of Doodlebug Designs' Petite prints. Has this fun snowfall look in a lovely light teal color. Using the new Snowy Hill Borders die, I cut out 2 pieces. One from some white shimmer cardstock, and that's the larger piece. I'll adhere that one down first. And I have a shorter hill, and I cut this out of a silver holographic grooves cardstock. And this is included in Your Paper Insiders box 9. And I will link all of the products in the description box below. I'll put adhesive on the back of my card front, add it on a card base, and this is an American Standard A2 size, 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. Then I'll add adhesive on the back of the holographic hill and adhere it at the very bottom of the card panel. I'll set the card aside and start assembling the adorable penguin. I love Pretty Pink Posh's holder die sets, and I think the penguin is a perfect new addition. The fun thing about the holder die sets, for each of the critters, there's also a ghost, their paws, hands, little flippers, they partially cut out so they can hold an object or a small sentiment. And Pretty Pink Posh has several holder edition die sets filled with so many fun objects for them to hold. And since the critters are all about the same size, they can all hold the same objects. The penguin is super easy to assemble. So I use black cardstock for the main body, white for the face and the belly. I used orange cardstock for the feet and also the beak. And then black cardstock for the eyes. The background piece, the body of the penguin, has the feet already on there, but there's also a die to cut out the feet individually so you can change the color. After adhering down the beak, then I'll add the eyes. I'll first put a small drop of Barely Art glue, and I'm picking up those tiny die cut pieces using Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. There's a wax tip end that makes it super easy to pick up small bling or die cut pieces. And before the glue dries completely, I'll make sure the eyes are nice and evenly spaced. I decided this penguin would be a girl, so I'm giving her a purple bow. And the bow is from the Valentine Holder Editions die set. It seemed fitting for a penguin to hold a fish, and the fish die is from the cat holder die set. And I cut it out from some lighter purple cardstock. I'll put glue on the back of the fish and then carefully lift the little flippers. So one flipper is holding onto the face of the fish and the other is holding onto one of the tail fins. I'll set that aside for now and start assembling an Igloo shaker. I cut out 2 of the Igloos and I used some white shimmer cardstock. If you're creating a fun scene on your card, you could simply use the main Igloo die cut piece since it has all the faux stitch detail. But if you want to turn it into a shaker, that is an option with this set. So using one of the main Igloo die cut pieces, I'll add the other die on top, hold that in place with some mint tape, and that will cut out the little individual blocks on the Igloo. After running it through my die cut machine, I end up with this fun Igloo frame. And if you still don't want to make a shaker, but you want a little extra detail, you could still cut out this frame and just glue the two pieces together. And if you want different colored blocks of ice, you could use another color, cardstock, or even pattern paper and inlay those individual pieces. But since I'm making a shaker, I put some clear double-sided adhesive tape on the back. And I did have to cut some tiny pieces to get behind the whole frame. And just to make sure there's enough adhesive, I'll also add a little bit of Barely Art glue. Then I'll place my cutout piece of acetate on the back, put an acrylic block on top, and I let that sit for a few minutes while the glue dried. So there's the front of the Igloo shaker. Now I need to add the foam strips. And I'm using scrapbook.com's 1/8 inch foam strips in the 2mm thickness. And I did speed up this portion quite a bit while I add the foam strips. And if you weren't aware, if you remove both sides of release paper from the foam strips, it makes it super easy to manipulate around the curves of your die cut piece. So with the Igloo, there are lots of curves. You can see I did that main outline frame from one piece. Now I'm not putting it behind every little die cut area. I'm focusing on the outside edge of the Igloo and also around the door of the Igloo. I'll be filling the Igloo with 2 of the new shaker mixes. I have one of the clay confetti mixes called Winter Wonderland. It has confetti pieces, the little circles, and also a bunch of snowflakes. And I'll also be using one of the shaker bead sets. It's called Marshmallow. It's simply all white beads. When I added the foam, I kept the door separate. That way I didn't have to fill the whole shaker image quite as much. And I am adding the shaker beads and the confetti mix inside both areas of the Igloo shaker. I put the beads in first, and now I'll add some of the Winter Wonderland mix. I'm adding all 3 shapes from the Winter Wonderland mix, but I am pulling out some extra snowflakes. I love the look of combining some of the confetti mixes with the shaker beads. So I'll put away the extra Winter Wonderland mix, and then very carefully I shook this Igloo piece to flatten out some of the shaker mixes. I don't want to end up with one clump overlapping in one area. Now I'll secure everything in place by adding the back of the Igloo. And I'm doing my best to line it up perfectly with the front frame of the Igloo. So there's the Igloo shaker all assembled. I think this is so fun. I'll grab my card, and I'm adding the Igloo on the left side closer toward the top. I'll put Barely Art glue on the back, adhere it down, and I will place a large acrylic block on top. Let that sit for a few minutes while the glue dries. The holographic snow border, there is that small hill on the left side. I decided to cover it up with the bottom of the Igloo. Next, I'll add the penguin on the right side of the card. Part of the penguin will overlap the Igloo, so before adhering it down, I am putting some foam dimension behind the penguin, just in the area where it's not touching the Igloo. I grabbed some 3mm foam squares from scrapbook.com, and I'll put them behind the right side of the penguin, put them behind the feet, and I did cut one of the squares in half to fit behind the feet. And to make sure I'm adding enough foam, I'll place the penguin on the card, just feel with my fingers to see if there are any areas that dip down. Now remove the release paper, put glue behind the left side of the penguin, and adhere it down. And I'm trying to get that penguin down standing nice and straight. Some of the foam already grabbed onto the holographic cardstock and it didn't want to move. I'm already loving this penguin. She is super cute. So I'll grab the rest of my die cut pieces and sentiment. I've already stamped and cut this out. Winter Greetings. And the ink color I use is Catherine Pooler's Daydream color. It matches the teal pattern paper. Using the sentiment coordinating die, I cut out another piece from some more silver holographic cardstock. Has this fun swirl design. I'll adhere the two pieces together, offsetting them slightly so you can see just a peek of the holographic cardstock underneath the sentiment and on the left side. I'm also adding a small basket, filling it with fish, although it's a very small basket, so only 2 fish will fit. The basket die is from the Valentine Holder Edition die set. I use the same light purple color for the fish. On the back side of the basket, I added a strip of clear double-sided adhesive tape, and then I'll tuck both of the fish inside the basket. I'll add the basket in front of the igloo on the left side. So I did put some foam dimension behind the basket, but just on the bottom. And I used more of the 3mm foam squares. I'll add a tiny bit of barely art glue behind the head of the fish that's sticking out of the basket. I want to make sure that adheres down nicely. I'll also be adding 3 snowflakes, and I use some lovely blue glitter cardstock. This is from Your Paper Insider. And the snowflake dies are from the Christmas Holder Edition set. There are several different sizes. This is one of the smaller. I'll add 2 snowflakes on the left side of the igloo, and 1 I'll tuck behind the penguin. May have been easier to put that snowflake down before attaching the penguin, but that's fine. I'll simply trim off part of the snowflake die cut and then tuck the rest of it behind the penguin. I'll press that down with my finger and also the end of my tweezers, just tucking it behind the penguin, making sure that snowflake is adhered down. Next, I'll add the sentiment, and I am popping it up with more foam. I figure if I'm making a shaker card, it already has a bunch of dimension, so why not add more dimension behind the sentiment? I'm using scrapbook.com's 1/4 inch foam roll in the 1mm thickness. Added 2 strips behind the sentiment, cut a few tiny pieces to fit behind the rest of the sentiment. I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment next to the snowflakes in the upper left-hand corner at the top of the igloo. For a little bit of sparkle on the penguin's bow, I'm using Pretty Pink Posh's Pearl White Jewels, the smallest size. I'll first put a small drop of barely art glue in the center of the bow, then adhere the jewel in place. And I know you can see some of the glue at the moment, but it will dry clear. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a white gel pen and adding the little highlight inside the penguin's eyes. And I think that really brings life to this little penguin. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. The new penguin holder die set is probably one of my favorites from the new release. But be sure to check out the rest of the new release since there are so many amazing products. And now it's time to head over to Leah Lawson's video for more inspiration. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.